What's going on, fanatics? Cole and Blake here, live from Hillside Stadium. Just finished up BC Lions training camp scrimmage. Blake, back with our insights after practice, after the scrimmage. What were your thoughts overall?
Yeah, definitely. It was a good scrimmage. No one really had the upper hand. The defense made a couple of interceptions. The offense made some big plays, though. We'll get to that here in a second. So no one really had the upper hand. And here in training camp, the scrimmage, of course, you got a couple preseason games coming up here before the real thing starts against Toronto. You'll love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of my takeaways. Let's start with some players here first, Blake. But on the defensive side, we'll go with third round pick. I believe taken 26 overall in the past draft here, CFL draft. That's Christophe Beaulieu, defensive back for the BC Lions here. Really impressed overall, Blake. We've been hearing, obviously, the first few days here at camp, he's impressing here early, but to see him live here in person, making a lot of plays, a lot of pass breakups. A guy that's also on, I believe, 3 of the 4 special teams here. So I think a guy's going to be contributing right away. If it's not maybe a starting position because of how deep is the defensive back, I think at least he'll be a contributor on special teams in year 1. To pass it back to you, Blake, and to go on maybe the offensive side of things, what were some things you liked from practice today?
Yeah, definitely. Like we talked about before the scrimmage, I liked Travis Fulgham. He made a couple of nice catches there. He didn't quite make his way into the end zone, but a couple of nice catches. And then, of course, with the Lions losing the likes of Dom Rhymes and Lucky Whitehead, names like that, there's some spots opened up. So guys like Aydan Eberhardt, there's another name who's escaping me right.
Berryhill, I believe.
Stanley Berryhill,
Yep.
That's right. Thanks, Cole. Stanley Berryhill, you heard his name called a lot. Another one was Edward Lee. He's wearing number 80 here at the scrimmage. He made a couple of nice catches for the Lions. So those are 3 names right there that are going to be fighting for theoretically 2 spots in the receiving corps.
Yeah, and receiving corps had a lot of questions coming into the year. Keon Hatcher obviously going to miss the majority of the season with his rehab and coming back from the injury. But outside of Alexander Holmes today, didn't really hear from Katoy McInnes, which I think is a pleasant surprise. Blake, a lot of other guys, the depth of the receiving room, stepping up, filling in a role, and also kind of showing their chemistry with VA here early in training camp. So I really like that. So to go back to the defensive side of things, obviously, as we talked about earlier, before practice, Blake and I are looking forward to seeing one Christian Covington in pads. We can tell you that he was in pads indeed. Unfortunately, did not take a snap during the BC Lions scrimmage here today. I think a little bit more precautionary, more so than anything. We're hearing that he's dealing with a little bit of a hamstring tightness, kind of tweak sort of thing. But that being said, I really like the depth behind at the defensive tackle position. You think of guys like Josh Banks. We saw Marcus Moore fill in there for Christian Covington today, but then even behind them, Thibaut Tabaye, global play that's obviously his 3rd-year line now, kind of taking more of a role, getting more snaps as he's getting a veteran in the CFL here, as well as last year's first-round pick, Francis Bemi, who's kind of getting in, filling in for those snaps in the defensive tackle role as well. So a few other areas that I wanted to touch on, Blake, is, we mentioned about kind of, Pete Robertson, obviously the loss of Matthew Betts, a few guys on the edge. David Menard obviously getting cut here earlier in training camp. Was definitely interested to see if maybe we could see some impact from that edge rusher position, specifically with Pete Robertson. And Soriano Chihema looked, pretty good today. But what did you see from that edge rusher position? I know it was a little bit quiet, but we did have one pass breakup from Pete Robertson today as well.
Yeah, Pete Robertson, I believe he had a sack as well, and he got a pass breakup kind of when they were in that early red zone offense-ish. He was able to jump up and bat a ball down from VA. And then the secondary I was really impressed with as well. We kind of talked about it before the scrimmage. Adrian Green, who we thought was going to step up and fill a big role here with TJ Lee, also missing what we believe will be a majority of the year, rehabbing his injury as well. He was able to make an interception as well. There was another interception there as well. So some really good plays by the defense.
And I'm glad you mentioned the secondary. Obviously TJ Lee is going to miss the majority of the year, like you mentioned. I like the depth behind that position at that halfback. Obviously, we saw young Christophe Beaulieu take a few reps there with the 2nd and 3rd teams. But, we've been hearing about a guy named, I believe, Kent Hall, number 4, playing halfback, with Marcus Sale as well, kind of in that halfback. But Seontae Evans, Grey Cup champion last year with Montreal Alouettes, obviously coming over. A lot of depth there and a lot of competition. I'm very interested to see who's going to be starting there at halfback. for the time being while TJ Lee still is recovering. I would imagine Marcus Sales is still going to hold down one of those starting halfback spots, but look out for either Kent Hall or Ciante Evans to take that other one until TJ Lee's back. That being said, that's a good problem to have when you can have that depth. So not too much more from you guys here, folks. Unfortunately, Blake and I weren't able to catch any other practices other than just the scrimmage here today. Got into town a little bit late yesterday, so missed yesterday's practice. Tomorrow's practice actually got a little bit scaled back to more of a walkthrough type practice. So, Blake and I will try to get down here and give you guys some updates, but from what we've been told, not too much is going to happen at practice tomorrow, so we might not have too much to report on. But Blake, really enjoyed being here in Kamloops today, being at beautiful Hillside Stadium. As far as any other updates, can't really think of too much off the top of my head. It was really good to see some BC Lions football up here close and personal, as well as just the CFL season being here so very soon. Anything on maybe quarterback one? Obviously, I would imagine the people are wanting to hear on Mr. Number 3, Vernon Adams. Yes, sir. Obviously, we saw him doing his late night shopping last night. But what did you see from Vernon Adams, and what are you looking forward to seeing from him this year?
Yeah, I thought Vernon had a decent scrimmage. I'm sure he'll be the first to admit there was maybe a couple of balls that he'd like back. I mean, as I said earlier, he was intercepted one time. But he had some chemistry, it looked like, with Alexander Hollins, who's a name that was here last year. Also, as we mentioned earlier, Travis Fulgham, who's the new BC Lion. So for him to have that chemistry with those two guys already is a really good sign for BC Lions fans. And as you mentioned, Cole, the preseason officially kicks off on Monday. So with the Bombers and the Riders. The Lions' first preseason game is a week from today. So, folks, we made it. The CFL season is officially here, and the road to Vancouver. I can't believe I get to say that, but Vancouver and the 111th Grey Cup has officially started. It'll officially kick off, if you will, on Monday afternoon.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Last but not least, as I mentioned on Twitter, William Standback did not participate in practice today, dealing with a little bit of a nagging injury. Not too sure what that is, but Smoke Mizell did look, fast as always, did look a little bit smaller, and was working with the ones today. So for Blake and I at Hillside Stadium, we will catch you guys on the next episode of Canadian Football Fanatics.